Beneath the Balete Tree, a tale of the Aswang, the village of Barrio Malaya sat nestled between rolling hills and emerald rice fields. At its edge stood an ancient Balete tree, its massive roots twisting into the earth like gnarled fingers. The villagers avoided the tree after sunset, crossing themselves whenever they passed it during daylight hours. Miguel, the village's newest teacher, scoffed at such superstitions. Having studied in Manila, he considered himself a man of science and reason. When the village elders warned him never to travel past the Balete tree after dark, he nodded politely but dismissed their concerns. The Aswang is not just a story to frighten children, Mang Pedro, the oldest man in the village, had told him. It watches from that tree, waiting for the unwary. I understand your concerns, Miguel had replied with the condescending smile of the educated. But these are modern times. One evening, Miguel stayed late at the schoolhouse, grading papers until the kerosene lamp burned low. Glancing at his watch, he realized it was nearly midnight. He gathered his things, extinguished the lamp, and set out for his small house on the other side of the village, a path that would take him directly past the Balete tree. The moon was thin that night, casting weak silver light across the path. As Miguel approached the massive tree, he heard a soft sound, something between weeping and laughter. He paused, peering into the darkness. "Hello?" he called. "Is someone there?" The sound stopped. Miguel shook his head, attributing the noise to an evening bird or his imagination. But as he continued walking, a scent reached him, the sickly sweet smell of overripe fruit mixed with something metallic. The scent grew stronger as he neared the Balete tree. At the base of the tree sat a woman in a white dress, her back to Miguel. Long black hair cascaded down her back, and her shoulders shook with quiet sobs. "Miss," Miguel called, his urban chivalry overcoming his momentary unease. "Are you all right? It's dangerous to be out alone at night." The woman didn't turn but responded in a melodic voice. "I'm lost. Can you help me find my way home?" Miguel approached cautiously. "Where do you live? I know the area well." "Not far," she answered, still not turning. "Just beyond the rice fields." Something about her voice made the hair on Miguel's arms stand up. It seemed to come not just from the woman but from the tree itself, as if echoing from inside a hollow. Miguel remembered Mang Pedro's warnings and hesitated. "Perhaps I could fetch someone from the village to help us both." The woman's sobbing stopped abruptly. "There's no need for that. I just need someone strong." As she spoke the last word, she slowly turned. In the dim moonlight, Miguel saw a beautiful face, too beautiful, too perfect. Her eyes reflected the moonlight like a cat's, and her smile revealed teeth that seemed slightly too sharp. Miguel took an instinctive step backward. "I should go." The woman stood in one fluid motion, unnaturally tall and thin. "But you offered to help me, teacher." She knew who he was. Miguel had never mentioned his profession. "The children speak of you," she said, as if reading his thoughts. "They say you don't believe in the old ways." Her feet, Miguel noticed with growing horror, weren't touching the ground. She hovered inches above the dirt path. "The Aswang," he whispered, his education and skepticism evaporating in an instant. The woman's smile widened beyond what a human mouth should allow. "So you do know our stories after all." Miguel turned to run, but the woman, now clearly something else, moved with impossible speed, circling him. In the moonlight, her transformation became apparent, her arms elongating, her legs fusing into a serpentine lower body, wings unfurling from her back. Just as the creature lunged toward him, a rooster crowed in the distance, hours before dawn should have stirred it. The Aswang hissed in frustration, its form flickering like a candle in wind. Miguel seized the moment, reaching into his pocket for the small silver cross his mother had insisted he carry. He had kept it out of sentiment rather than faith, but now he held it before him with trembling hands. "Begone!" he shouted, his voice breaking with fear. The aswang shrieked, a sound like metal scraping against metal. It retreated toward the balete tree, its beautiful face contorting with rage. "You were warned, teacher," it snarled. "Yet you walked my path alone. Pride is a weakness we hunger for." Miguel backed away, keeping the cross extended. From the village, more roosters began to crow, as if sensing the unnatural presence. The aswang gave one final, hateful look before melting into the shadows of the massive tree. Miguel ran the entire way back to the village, not stopping until he reached Monk Pedro's house. The old man opened his door to find the teacher pale and shaking, all traces of his academic arrogance gone. "You saw her," Monk Pedro stated simply. It wasn't a question. Miguel nodded, unable to speak. The old man sighed and opened his door wider. "Come in. We have much to discuss before sunrise." As dawn broke over Barrio Malaya, Miguel sat in Monk Pedro's humble home, drinking strong ginger tea mixed with herbs whose names he didn't know. The old man had spent hours teaching him the protections that generations of villagers had passed down, the prayers, the herbs, the signs to watch for. "Why didn't it kill me?" Miguel finally asked. Monk Pedro smiled gently. "The aswang tests before it feeds. It would have returned for you, night after night, weakening your resolve, making you doubt what you saw. Only when your fear was complete would it have taken you." Miguel shuddered. "And the roosters? Why did they crow so early?" "They sense the aswang's presence. It is one of God's mercies that such warnings exist." The old man placed a gnarled hand on Miguel's shoulder. "Will you still tell the children that our beliefs are mere superstition?" Miguel shook his head slowly. "No. There are truths in this world that books cannot teach." The following day, Miguel stood before his class with new humility. When a young student asked why he now wore a small pouch of garlic and ginger around his neck, just like their grandparents did, Miguel simply replied, "Because wisdom comes in many forms, and the oldest lessons are often the most important." At the edge of the village, the ancient balete tree stood silent in the daylight. But as darkness fell, those who listened carefully might hear a soft sound, something between weeping and laughter, waiting for the unwary traveler who believes too firmly in the limitations of their understanding.